The Pawpaw Festival in Pawpaw, Illinois returns this year, September 20th, 2025, sponsored by the Pawpaw Lions Club. Fellow festival organizer Neil Rogers let me know that the Beautification Committee of Montgomery, Illinois was planting and dedicating 2 pawpaw trees at an Arbor Day celebration, as well as giving away 50 pawpaw and 50 persimmon seedlings to attendees. I decided it would be a good idea to show up and promote our festival as well as give away some seeds. So let's check it out. This was meant as an educational event to show folks proper tree planting procedures and to feature 2 native fruit trees that are host to pollinators. Pawpaws are host to the larva of the zebra swallowtail butterfly, and the persimmon is host to the Luna moth.
Good morning, everyone. If you can, there's a sign-up sheet under the first tent there on the table. We would like to know who showed up today. And the Village of Montgomery Beautification Committee members want to thank you for coming out to Arbor Day celebration, organized by the Public Works Forestry Division and their staff. I'd like to recognize a couple people who are here. First of all, the staff of the Beautification Committee, all their members, if you could raise your hand. Excellent. Thank you so much. Village President Matt Browley. I think we have Trustee Dan Geyer here someplace. There he is. And Trustee Doug Marisek. I don't think I missed anybody. So thank you for all that you guys do. For second, third, fourth, and fifth grade students, the theme was Trees Plant a Cooler Future. And as a committee, we chose 3 winners that were submitted, and I'm going to announce those winners now. The first winner was Amanda Lambie from 4th grade. The second was Eva Balls of 4th grade. And then Emily Cobb of 3rd grade, all from Lakewood Creek Elementary School. So congratulations to those winners. They will be awarded and formally recognized at the May 12th Village Board meeting. The focal point of this year's Arbor Day celebration is planting and dedication of 2 pawpaw trees through the Arboretum Garden Park. And if you don't know what a pawpaw tree is, like me, I just Googled it, and it says the pawpaw is it's a native tree to the area. The flavor of pawpaw fruit is often compared to bananas, but with hints of mango, vanilla, and citrus. So I expect to see you guys out here picking this fruit off the trees in another year or 2. This tree's dedication underscores the village's commitment to preserving and enhancing the natural environment of our village for generations to come. And Ed wants me to read the proclamation. So the proclamation was adopted by the village board on April 14th, 25 at their board meeting. And it is Proclamation Arbor Day, April 26, 2025, whereas in 1872 the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, lowering heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a remarkable resource, giving us proper wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Trees in our village increase property values, enhance the economic viability of business areas, and beautify the community. And whereas trees, whenever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to promote the well-being of our community for further generations. And that's all I got. So I'm going to hand it over to Ed Path, our Forestry Division Manager.
Hello, everybody. I really appreciate y'all coming out. Arbor Day is a special time of the year for me because I love trees. And I'm hoping that by having the Arbor Day celebration, we can get everybody to love trees. The pawpaw tree this year, we're planting 2 trees because pawpaw trees are incompatible for pollination to themselves. They have to have another tree with different genetics, another pawpaw. So we're planting the 2 trees in hopes that there will be some fruit production on that. The other thing you'll notice with the native trees, and you can look around our arbor garden here and the native trees, you'll see all the trees that look like they're still asleep, and they are. For the most part, they are more attuned to our local environment, so they don't put their leaves out too early where they're going to lose all that energy by a late season frost or something that would normally have a freeze. So they'll still look dormant for a while. And these are just starting to push a few leaves out and bud break, but so they're a little bit slower that way. The pawpaw tree will get to be about like 15 to up to 30 feet tall and pretty much rounded, same width also. They generally like to, like most trees, like to grow in moist, well-drained soils. We don't have that a lot around here anymore in the newly constructed areas because the soil's usually moved around a lot and compacted. So it's something to keep in mind. So like when you dig the hole, you want to over dig your hole a little bit to give it some room to grow, and you want to keep an eye on the moisture. And when it says moist, well drained, that also lets you know you don't want to overwater. Trees can actually drown. They need the oxygen to the roots to respire and transform the sugars into energy for the tree to grow. So something to keep in mind. Now also, when we do our giveaway trees, there's one more on the pawpaw I wanted to mention. My favorite thing about the pawpaw is that they are the host to a zebra swallowtail butterfly, which if you look at the signs that show the 2 trees on there, you'll see the zebra swallowtail on the flowers at the bottom of the picture there. And it's a unique butterfly that you would notice right away because it is like pure white and a dark black stripe. You'll see tiger swallowtails around; those will be yellow with black. So it's really a pretty neat thing to see those come around. The caterpillars lay their eggs singly on the leaves because the caterpillars can actually, they're cannibalistic, so if there's more than one on there, they might eat the other one. So they kind of do one per leaf. But in general, pawpaws are very resistant to any type of leaf feeding because they have some toxins in the leaves that make them taste bad. So deer will not eat the leaves generally, and a lot of insects will avoid it, but they think that some of those toxins transfer into the caterpillar and the butterfly and also make them unpalatable to predators. So if you look on the sign, I'm going to flip around it now just so they can see that inside too. What's that? No, there's one side. Oh, that one's on the same one. Okay. I thought there was one side for each side. But anyway, on the bottom there for the persimmon tree, we have some persimmon trees as a giveaway tree also. Those also would be 2 trees or more to plant for different reasons. It's not that they're self-incompatible, but they have male and female trees. So you need a male and female tree for the pollination. So just purely by planting 2 doesn't mean you're going to be able to get fruit, but there's other persimmons in the area often, so the bees, honeybees and other native bees will pollinate those and cross-pollinate, so you'll get fruit on those also. Those can be 30 to 60 feet tall and probably about 15 to 30 feet wide. The fruit, when it's not ripe, it's an astringent, so it'll dry out your mouth really badly, like cottonmouth, and your mouth will almost feel numb. So it's fun to get people to try them. And then when they do get ripe, they're a real excellent taste. when they're ready to eat, pretty much if you shake the tree, they fall to the ground, and the ones that fall, those are the ones to eat. And it tastes sometimes like honey. Some of them, to me, taste like orange crush soda. So they're a fun tree. So those are native also. So 2 native fruit trees that we'll have around this year. And those also have an interesting host. They're a host for Luna moth butterflies. And the Luna moth butterflies, it's not a butterfly, I'm sorry, it's a moth. But they are like, the green is almost like the glow in the dark paint or light green that you see, or the glow in the dark frisbee colors. So they've always been a favorite of mine as a kid. They also will use walnut trees as a host plant. And the other thing that's interesting with both of these trees is they're both tolerant to toxins that are put into the ground by black walnut trees. So both of these trees will grow in close proximity to walnut trees. So now, I hope I didn't bore everybody too much, but I find that really exciting. And these are the things you got to think about and look at, because everything in nature is connected, and we are part of nature. So we can help out by doing the right things and planting the right trees in the right places, and then letting them grow to the mature size, and paying attention to what's going on. So now I think what we're going to do, if we have any kids that would like to help us, we're going to start excavating the holes. So we have some shovels here, and Aaron's the biggest big guy here. Aaron Miller, he's another certified arborist. And then this is Joe, our other forestry department member, who's just started and will be a certified arborist someday. But they're going to help us out.
Yay!
So another thing we're going to point out here to start too is, before you dig anything all the time, you want to call Julie Locates in. And so that way the utilities are getting into a gas line or other utility line. We have the flags in the ground out here showing that they were called and responded, and everything says okay by it, which means it's clear. Interesting thing is, a couple years ago somebody called me and wanted to know why there was a flag with a little person on the ground by it, but it said okay, and they were just looking at it at the wrong angle, so it looked like it had arms and legs. So when you dig the holes for the pawpaw trees in a potted plant, you want to dig the hole deep enough that actually on a potted tree you can over dig the bottom of the hole a little bit, because it's not heavy enough that it's really going to sink a whole lot. But you want to refill that back in before you put the tree in. But you want to slide the pot off of it. Be careful not to break the piece apart. So there we go. If it doesn't want to slide out too easily, then we might have to cut the side of the pot. What's that? Alright, so this one's coming apart a little bit, which is, in some ways, is a good thing, because it's not totally root bound in the pot. It hasn't been in the pot too long. It's hard to tell, but some of the roots down here in the bottom have a whiter color. Certain plants will have very white roots in new growth. White tips is a good sign. These are still in dormancy, so I think they're not going to show a whole lot just yet. So, but with this falling apart, now when we want to plant this, you really only need a little tiny hole. But with the other stuff there, but you can see like this crown swell here, and then there's a transition in bark from the trunk bark to the root bark. And the bark is actually different, has different properties. So if you pile dirt up onto the trunk bark, it's not the same, and you will actually get base rot on the tree. And it'll be a problem. It might not show up for a couple of years, but that's where you want to make sure you got the right proper planting depth. So. So another thing to consider, this tree actually looks like it was grown into the soil for a while and then transplanted into the pot. A lot of times when trees are grown in a potted mix, when you put them in the soil is different. So like the transition of soil for the roots and the watering is a little bit different, because sometimes the surrounding dirt will either be wetter, and then the potting soil will end up drying out quicker. So you have to pay more attention when you're watering and check the whole site. And you kind of like to make a transition in the soil textures in between. So in that case, sometimes adding a little bit of compost or loose soil, or compost like leaf compost or something like that around the edge, mixed in with the soil, will help ease that transition between the two different types of soils. Like, these trees are very low branched right now. When you first plant a tree, I wouldn't do any pruning at all unless something's dead on it or broken, at least for the first year, even if it looks odd. Those branches are also going to help feed the roots to give more energy to the tree, so that it establishes more quickly. So this is also the time when you're going to everyone's walking and checking the tree from all directions, trying to make sure things are straight and look good. If you're planting something like it's ornamental in the front of your house, you want to make sure that the branches are spread in the direction that would look most appropriate to your house. A lot of trees will have flat sides, or one side looks better than the other, so you want to position that at this time and think about it before you put it in the hole and fill it all in, and then stand back and look at it. So Aaron and Joel are going to pack the tree in a little bit, and then we're going to let the kids come back and help put some of the soil back in around the tree.
He was going to be so sad if I said, I got shovels just your son.
So if you've been here other past years, we did bald and burlap trees, and we'll just mention that for the bald and burlap tree, we do, when we put the tree in, we cut, if it's got a wire basket on, we try to cut the bottom half of the basket off first, leaving the top intact and tied, and then we roll the tree into the hole, and then we cut the top half of the basket off, from the soil around it, halfway up the bottom, and then we cut the top half of the burlap off, removing all the ties around the base of the tree, because they could become an issue in the future if they remain. Sometimes they degrade in the soil, but sometimes there's not enough bacterial life in the soil to break down the burlap, or the string is sometimes made of nylon or something that doesn't degrade, and it will choke the tree and kill it in a few years. So if the root ball is kind of loose and ready to fall apart on a big tree, we generally leave them tied and planted in without cutting the basket, or cutting the ties, and then we'll leave it in the ground in that condition to help establish. And then once it's established, after about a year or so, then we'll go back and then we'll cut the ties and take the burlap off. But you got to make sure you go back to do that for the same reasons of just it not breaking down. So, all right, so if the kids want to come and help put some soil back in around the trees. And again, when you put the soil in around the tree, you want to kind of firm it in, not pack it down super hard, but you want it firm so that the tree's not going to blow over. And you also want to avoid having too large air pockets when you have large air pockets, a lot of times you'll have mold and fungus grow in those areas, and it'll cause some rot on the roots. And you'd also have areas that the roots will be drying out because there's no soil contact. In the wintertime, it helps insulate the ground so it doesn't get a hard freeze around the roots. And also, as the mulch breaks down, it gives nutrients and helps it better soil so the trees can flourish and grow better. When you're mulching a tree, 2 to 3 inches around the tree thick. The main thing when mulching a tree is you don't want it on the actual trunk of the tree. We call volcano mulching of the tree like that. When it does that, because mulch, it holds moisture, right? So there'll be moisture around that trunk, which will promote decay, invite bugs and funguses to the tree next. So when you break it around your tree 2 to 3 inches, keep it away from that base. It'll be fine. So I'm just going to do that now. We do have some cards, pamphlets back there on mulching, volcano mulching, that kind of explain it to you if you have any questions on that. So that's that. And it also moderates the soil temperature. Anything else, sir? Okay, so that's about all from there. But I would like to mention we have a couple things. The Dixon Merce Farm Partners are having Spring at the Farm on Sunday. It's May 4th, and it's from 10 till 3 or 3:30. It's a good time. I think everybody should go out there to see that. And then we also have a special guest who's going to tell us a little bit more about the Pawpaws.
It was at that point I stopped filming. I'd like to thank Ed Pfaff for all the information that he shared with the crowd that day and for inviting me out to document the event. Tell folks a little bit about the Lions Club Pawpaw Festival that returns September 20th, 2025, right at Veterans Memorial Park in Pawpaw, Illinois, and to give away seeds to the folks that attended. I talked a little bit more about pawpaws, so let's listen in.
There's great resources of information online. There's the Kentucky State University is the USDA genomic repository for pawpaw, and they have a pawpaw growing program, a dedicated program at their college, and they are hosting a conference this year in the fall right before the Ohio Pawpaw Festival, and it's a great way to learn about all the many things that are just the fun facts and emerging science of pawpaws. So I urge you all to check that out, and I know you guys are getting one tree today, which is wonderful, but as was mentioned, you need 2 trees to have fruit, right? So I have a bunch of seeds that I'm happy to give away, and some instructions on growing from seed, which is a little different than planting the trees, but not that much. And maybe if you guys take very good care of the trees that you bring home, and take some seeds and put them in the ground along with your tree, or sprout them in a container, you may have 2 or maybe even more trees in the coming years. So if you're interested in that, please come talk to me. I've got about 30 bags that I brought, and some handouts, so I can make at least that many packets for people to take home, and I'll see if there's more demand. I'll try to meet it. I have a YouTube channel with some videos devoted to pawpaws. If you're curious, you can ask me about that. And then I think one thing to consider with, although we're planting these big trees that have a significant root system, the smaller trees that you guys are taking home, pawpaws don't particularly like being bare root, but they're going into the soil today, as I understand. So that will be good, and I don't think they've spent a long time being bare root. So if you get them acclimated and in the ground. You may want to shade them for the first season or two in order to do kind of what we're achieving with the mulch here and this tree bag to give them a little extra oomph to establish, because they have a long taproot that develops and goes down towards the groundwater. But in those first crucial few years, they are susceptible to drought and drying out. So you really don't want to let that happen. You don't want it to be swampy, but you don't want them to be dried to a crisp either. So if you take that extra care in really babying them along those first few years, they're relatively easy to care for after that. And I guess that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rusty.